Good morning, everybody. Welcome to this edition of the Weekend Wrap Up Show. It is September 28th, 2024. Mr. Josh Blevins is with me. I'm David Thomas. We're here to cover the news that matters for the past week, Josh. And I know you've been out and about, and we've got a lot to talk about this morning.
We got a few things to discuss. Not a crazy busy week, but we had enough going on. We got a few things we can talk about.
So, all right, before we do, let's take a break and hear from our sponsor, Dennis Young Insurance. We'll be right back.
With the personalized service you deserve at Dennis Young Insurance Agency.
As a local independent agency, we offer coverage from several different companies, including Erie. So whether it's auto, home, life, personal, or business, we can find the right coverage to meet your unique insurance needs. And with a rate lock advantage, your rates won't go up as long as you do not change drivers, autos, or addresses. Contact us at Dennis Young Insurance Agency, insuring Shelbyville and surrounding areas since 1988.
All righty, welcome back to the Weekend Wrap Up here on Shelbyville Now. Josh, it looks like you started the week off with a school board meeting. Why don't you jump in and tell us all about it?
All right. Actually, we're going backwards more than a week, which we don't normally do. But we actually last weekend we talked a little bit about the school board meeting from the previous week.
Right.
And we're going to dive a little deeper in today because I still, over the week that just happened, I got a lot more questions still, and some more concerns were raised by some things that went on at some other meetings that kind of tied in together. So we're going to go backwards a week, and we had a school board meeting a little over a week ago, and at that meeting there was about 25 minutes of discussion of construction manager at risk.
Okay.
This is it's one of three ways that you can run a capital project, like a construction project, allowed under TCA, under state code. You can either have a general contractor, which is how most people expect it to be done, which is it's called design, bid, build. So you have an architect or somebody design the project,
bid it out.
You put it out for bid, get competitive bids. Normally you would pick the lowest bid. And then whoever gets the bid builds the project.
Right.
There's a third way called construction manager advisor, and that one you just hire a construction manager that works for a flat fee or percentage. He gets all the bids, and then he just kind of advises you. But the one that we've decided to go with here in the county recently, we went with it on Cartwright. We're using it currently on the Juvenile Justice Center that's being built. And now we're about to use it on a bunch of small projects. It's called Construction Manager at Risk. And in this case, what we did was we put out what's called an RFQ, Request for Qualifications. No dollar amounts discussed by anybody. We got back three contractors, submitted their qualifications. There was a scoring process where a bunch of people looked at their qualifications, and we decided which one of the three was the best. And now this company, which the winner was Bell Construction, who we've used on several projects, they're now our construction manager for both the school board and for the county. And they collaborate with our owner rep and with the architect. The three of them get together, look at a project, decide how it needs to be built, develop what's called a guaranteed maximum price, and that is what they submit to the county, and then the finance department decides if they accept that guaranteed maximum price. Then they build the project.
So the finance department does, not the commission's not even involved in this.
These are projects that have already been
approved
in a budget somewhere.
Gotcha.
So this is part of these. A lot of these projects will be projects that were in the bundle deal that was approved back in May, where we had the 5 projects.
Right.
Some of those projects now there's already a dollar amount attached to them, and they now will develop a price, and then they'll build the project. So let's start with clip 1 real quick here, and this is what I remembered from the school board meeting, and then I asked a question at a meeting this week, and I remembered back to these couple quotes that we're going to play here, and then we'll discuss why they piqued my interest.
What all does it entail? Is it just school projects? Is it county projects? Is it for a length of time? What exactly? How long does it go? Just for transparency for all you guys, so you know.
Well, it's for I think we specified various projects. Most of those are school projects.
Okay.
But we don't have any county project at the moment. But if we needed one, we could actually use them without having to go back and do it again.
But a decision of this board can't bind the county commission to select the same contractor to do projects for the county. Is that correct?
When you do an RFQ, it's not the board decision, it's my decision as finance director. This does not go in front of the county commission.
But it will be used because this is not just for county school projects. It's being used for not just school projects, but other projects in the county when they come about. And I do believe, if I follow the news correctly, there are other projects that the county has discussed doing.
Everything, there's no projects that it's under this that I know of at the moment. All the other projects the county has have already started.
Okay.
So you heard there twice the mention that, or the implication anyways, that there's no county projects tied to this. So I went to the finance meeting Tuesday night this week and spoke with our owner rep. And one of the first questions I asked him was this new construction manager at risk. We had heard already at the school board meeting that they were working on the school vestibule project. I said, what other projects are involved? Because we never got a list, it was a little fuzzy. What's going on? And the first thing he said to me was, well, the surplus building, we're going to use them on the surplus building. And I thought back to these two quotes where it said there's no county projects.
And what about the juvenile detention center?
Now, juvenile detention center does not fall under this agreement. There was a previous RFQ. Now, it just so happens Bell won that one as well.
Yes.
So that one was done as a separate package deal. And that's a particular project. They are also doing that one as a guaranteed maximum price project.
Okay.
So there's just, I don't want to say there's shenanigans going on. All we'll say is there's the possibility of shenanigans.
This sets it up to where shenanigans could be hidden.
There could be shenanigans. I'm going to read, I don't want to, I want to hear from some other people on how they feel about this. This is a particular way to do this. This is allowed under Tennessee code.
Right.
So I'm going to read from I did a bunch of online research and also in-person research. There's two sides to the argument. There's obviously the side for it and the side against it, as there are with most arguments. This is from a national architectural firm website. I don't know the company, and I don't want to call them out anyways. But this is a quote off their website. When estimating costs, construction manager at risk and subcontractors are not necessarily incentivized to provide the lowest possible cost. They have already been awarded the work, so there is no need to reduce the bid. Although cost estimates are aligned to budgetary parameters, they may not be accurate or as low as possible. On a design bid build project, bidding occurs after the architect completes the contract documents. Bidders are then incentivized to reduce costs and provide the lowest responsible bid, helping you stretch your dollar. Again, that's just one side of the argument, but the argument against is that if you put a thing out for bid, obviously you get multiple people coming in and hopefully you get lower pricing that way.
Right.
The other side of the argument is with this guaranteed maximum price, both our owner rep and our finance department see a line item of every subcontractor, every piece that goes into this project. So they get a big, long bunch of paperwork from this company, from Bell in this case, and get to see behind the scenes kind of thing. But if I'm Bell, am I working that hard to get the cheapest electrician that I can find, or am I just using an electrician that I'm comfortable with because I have, a dollar amount? And then some of the questions that were raised, we'll play a much longer clip here in just a minute that were raised at the school board meeting is, you've now got two hands in the cookie jar. You've got our owner rep who's getting a percentage of the project. And you've now got this construction manager at risk. They also are paid on a percentage basis. I couldn't get a firm answer on what the percentage was, but I'm told it's like a low single-digit percentage. So this construction manager at risk is probably going to take, we'll say, 5%.
Has this construction manager at risk been hired?
They have. Bell Construction won the process, so they're the construction manager at risk.
And they're the
for the
construction
county
company too.
Yes, they're the contractor. So they'll hire all the subcontractors. They'll provide. They'll try to come up with a dollar amount. Now, the other question that was raised, which we'll hear in a minute, is these projects are out there. I mean, we know what our budget is for the surplus building. We know what our budget is for this project, for that project. So how hard would it be for the construction manager to go out and find that dollar amount And wouldn't you shoot to have your guaranteed maximum price be about what the budget amount
Oh,
is?
yeah.
You would think.
Yeah.
So that's another concern there. The other thing that happens with this, which is both sides of the argument latch onto this, is with the guaranteed maximum price, if the final project comes in cheaper than that, you split the savings. So the county gets some of that savings and the construction manager gets some of that savings.
Right.
So on the negative part of the argument, you're like, well, we're giving more money to that construction manager. He's already getting a percentage. Now he's getting more. From the county side, they said it was mentioned at the meeting it could be a 50-50 split. I was actually told we could negotiate it and give them as little as, say, 20% of the savings and the county keep 80%.
Right.
So let's play the longer clip. So I don't want to have too much of us giving our opinion on it. Let's hear what some of the school board members had to say about this and some of the questions that they raised
Okay.
and hear what they had to say.
Two people. So we got Jeff, right? That's overseeing it for the county. Now we've
He's
got,
just our representative.
well, he's a representative, but he's still compensated for it. And then we also would have a contractor at a guaranteed maximum price situation that would have somebody that is designated to the projects. So we kind of be, I mean, it just kind of looks like we'd be a double dip in there a little bit as far as oversight. So if the RFQ is for a guaranteed maximum price, which I don't disagree with, worked well at the school, can't go against that. On small projects, do we need any additional oversight?
But it wouldn't be difficult for any of these contractors to come and just do a little research, like public records request, to find out how much money we have to spend on these projects, right? And then they would know how much money we have to spend, and then there would not be any competition whatsoever when they go out here
No,
and build this project.
you select your contractor, then they give you a maximum price, not everybody.
Based on a number that they would be privileged to by doing a public records request, knowing that we have, let's just use numbers. Let's say we have $5 million to spend on vestibules.
Mr. Chairman, we got a number of questions
Okay.
and great concerns. Number one, we're talking about projects. What projects? What projects are we specifically talking about? What are the hard projects that this relates to? This is not open-ended. I've got great reservations with where we are in this.
But I think we've also seen, in not so distant past, that when the Board of Education gets behind something, typically our constituents get behind it too, because they know that we need schools and they know that we need upgrades to our facilities. But then what happens is we want to move forward on this and we vote on it, and then it goes before the county commission, and they may not be in favor of it because of the procedures. And then there's this big fight about, well, if we don't do this, we're holding up school progress. And it puts this Board of Education in the middle of a crap storm at the county commission.
Okay. Storm warning's out.
Storm warning's out. So,
All
so again, just to be clear, what we're saying here, we're not claiming that anybody's doing anything underhanded here. We've not found any shenanigans, but the whole thing, it just leaves a lot of room, at least for question, at the least. I did go in. I had a very good meeting Friday with our finance director. He helped me get a lot of answers to how the process worked. He gave me this piece of paperwork about the 3 different, TCA allowed ways to do these kind of projects. We're not doing anything here illegal. It's not underhanded. It just feels like we're putting a lot of trust in, a couple individuals, organizations that, I'm all about trusting somebody, but trust and verify.
I'll just tell you something, Josh.
Yeah.
If I were in one of those positions, I would say, no way.
Yeah.
Please. We need to keep this where everybody sees every penny.
Right.
And there's a bid process in place. I don't want my name attached to something to where I could be pointed to and accused of something. You know
Right.
what I'm saying?
Sure.
That puts those people, to me, it puts our finance director, it puts our, Sweeney,
Yeah.
okay, and the construction company all in a position to where they could be accused of something.
Right. Yeah. Even if nothing's going on,
Right.
which again, we don't know that anything is going on. Probably there's not, but it just looks like, it just kind of, I think people are kind of wishing there was. more
We
bidding
always
involved in this
have a
process.
tendency, Josh,
Yeah.
it seems like our county government always has a tendency to lean toward a gray area when it's available.
Yeah, I used the term when I was talking to our finance director. I said the packet which I read, the RFQ packet. I said it's vague. I said there's no timeline. There is no list of projects. I've asked for a list of projects. They asked there at the meeting for a list of projects. There's no defined list of projects. It doesn't have. It's not a 12-month. It's not an 18-month. There's no. It's. I said it was vague, and he said it's not vague. It's broad. I said, well,
Same difference.
yeah, I said it feels like it should be tightened up somehow. So, but we've done it. I mean, we've picked.
Yeah, this is what we've done.
We've picked this construction
All right, so-
at risk, and they're gonna do some.
All right, my
projects,
question
so.
for you is: Brian Cruz brings up a huge point here in the middle of this. All right, and he talks about how the Board of Education could be brought into the middle of this because a lot of this is going to be Board of Education projects, which it seems like the Board of Education has no hand in at this point. Is that true? I mean,
they approve the project,
Okay.
they approve the budget amount, but then it goes to,
Right.
and this is all part of the 1981 Act. Everything then moves to the finance department, and they handle the actual getting it done.
so
in
the
whatever
finance
manner.
department does. So
They're the
once they
purchasing
approve
arm
it,
of
they
the
can't
county.
back up and say, "Wait a minute, we need to follow up on this and check on it." It's not out of their hands.
As long as they spend the dollar amount that they approved in the budget, they can decide which of these three processes they use to spend that dollar amount. So it goes out of their hands at that point.
Wow.
So, which is again, there's two sides to that argument. I mean, does the school board need to be micromanaging every small purchase?
Right, I agree. No,
And
but,
then the other argument is, but
If a large-
do we need some more
yeah,
micromanagement?
but they
on
need
some
to
of
be
these bigger
able.
projects?
Do they
So-
need to be able to? If a large topic comes up in the middle of this, do they need to be able to have some input? Absolutely, they do.
Oh,
With
yeah.
this, they don't.
Right. And now I did ask that question. I said, this, again, vague, broad, whatever you want to call it, this contract, like, what if we get to a big project and I was told, oh, no, we wouldn't like build a school under this or something. We'd go and do a separate.
Okay,
separate
so
deal.
Cartwright
So-
School would not have been done that way.
Well, Cartwright School was done this way.
Well, okay,
But as
okay.
a single, it was done as
It's
a single
project.
Yeah, and that's another question that's been raised, which they asked again at this school board meeting, is they've yet to see the finals. The school board would like to see a final breakdown. They ended up at like 40, I believe he mentioned $40.3 million at
Okay.
that meeting.
And why would
They
you
want
be
to
able to see that?
well, and I think they will get to see it
Okay.
at some point, but they have not yet seen a final breakdown. They want to see it line by line, who got what,
Well, yeah.
how much, went in whichever direction of this $40 million, just as an oversight thing to make sure no shenanigans.
Well, I would want to
So,
put that out and let everybody
yeah.
see it. I mean, it's taxpayer
that's
money we're
public
talking
record,
about
so
here.
I think that'll be out there
Yeah.
at some point. So that's it. Don't normally like to go that far, back up over a week, but I felt like maybe we hadn't done a full service last week, and I wanted to play a couple clips just so people could see what was going on there. That's one of those things. A lot of these meetings, nobody goes to these meetings. I mean, there's nobody
Yeah.
sitting in the crowd. There's 6 or 8 of us.
Right.
And this one had a video. Just a little side note. Thursday night, the school board met again to do what was supposed to be a strategic planning meeting. It fell at the same time as the a meeting we'll talk about in a minute, the city planning meeting. Neither of those meetings are live streamed or video or anything. So I had to make a decision. I went with city planning, but that's kind of the downside of being in a small market like we are. There was no, as far as I know, and possibly somebody from the paper, but I don't think there's going to be any coverage of what actually happened at that school board meeting Thursday night, because it's not live
Right.
streamed. There was nobody there from the press that I know of. And I wasn't able to make it because I had the other meeting. So it would just, it'd be nice if we live streamed all of these. Yeah.
Clone, Josh.
Or if we just if it's an open meeting, I would like them to be online. It sure would
It
be
would-
nice.
yeah,
So
should be.
so people could go back and watch and make
Transparent.
a decision for themselves.
Right.
So Monday, getting into the week that actually did just happen. Monday we had the Shelbyville Historic Zoning Commission meeting, And they voted unanimously, all three of them that were there. That's a 5-person committee. That one person they couldn't even contact. It had been 2 years since the meeting. They didn't have a phone number that worked to get a hold of the person,
Wow.
so they couldn't even get a hold of them. But they got 3 to show up, which was a quorum, and they unanimously passed a recommendation that's going to the city council to place the Rosenwald Recreation and Community Center on the National Register of Historic Places. So I was actually at Rosenwald the Saturday before that. They had a nice open house. I went in for what I expected to just, do a walkthrough and shake some hands and see the open house. And I ended up sitting there and talking to him for 2 hours. So
Wow.
it was great. We had a good time. And the Rosenwald Center was built in 1946. It was part of a series of places all over the U.S. Built a combination of Booker T. Washington from Tuskegee and Julius Rosenwald, whose name is obviously on all of these, who was the president of Sears and Roebuck at the time. So a lot of history there. We
Yeah.
put a link in our Facebook to where you can kind of read more about
Right.
it.
Yeah.
If you actually go on if you're really interested, I read the Tennessee State Historic Society had like a 40-page document laying out a much longer history, which I read a lot of that, which was really interesting. So, and they're looking forward, October 26th from noon to 3, they're going to have a family fun day there at the center. So we'll be promoting that as we get closer to that. So Tuesday, went to the Financial Management Committee of the county and wasn't expecting much. Side note, they did not put out their agenda within 48 hours, more than 48 hours before the event, which is technically, I believe, a violation of our current Open Meetings Act. So
Yes.
they put one out, a partial agenda Monday morning and a complete one Monday evening, but that's, by my math, Monday is not 48 hours before Tuesday afternoon. So nothing much happened that really mattered as far as Open Meetings Act. They only did 2 actual action items, and they were small. So, I mean, it's not the end of the world, but just, something to be on the lookout for. That new law that they passed last year, you're supposed to have an agenda 48
Right.
hours.
Started
advance.
July 1st, right?
Yeah, so that people know what's going on so they can decide if they want to come to the meeting or not. So something that wasn't on the agenda that was unexpected, we're going to play a quick clip 3 here, and then we're going to discuss this. So
All right.
let's hear what they had to say.
Things, big projects we're working on, the biggest one being the morgue issue. We are now, the county is going to be tasked with receiving and handling our own deceased individuals. So that's going to be a huge logistics challenge for us at EMS. But we're working through that now, and we're in the beginning of that project, and that'll transition Saturday. So.
And he's been working with the mayor's office. We knew this was coming as they continue to have the challenges of that. Now, this is related specifically to Ala Hospital deaths, meaning there was no attempt to resuscitate. Those patients would still go to the hospital for the standard processing, correct?
That's correct. Everything that we transport to the hospital would still go to the hospital, but anything that's outside of the hospital goes to a county.
And there's multiple layers of potential resolution without us actually having to house or hold, and they'll exhaust those obviously but we will find ourselves with that. And that was something that we had already been looking at long-term with the new surplus facility, having some space designated specifically in there for this. So this is
Interesting.
So as of today, Saturday, Vanderbilt Hospital will no longer accept bodies into their morgue for out-of-hospital deaths. So if you were to die at home of a heart attack or whatever, and they were able to declare you on the scene, they can't take you and put you in the hospital morgue anymore here in the county. Apparently, they knew it was coming, but I didn't know it was coming. I go to all these meetings. It wasn't really something that was discussed until this particular meeting on Tuesday when they didn't have a choice because it was happening today.
Here it is. Yeah.
So I was kind of curious what was going on. So I called around and got a hold of one of our local funeral home directors. I won't mention a name, but talked to him for a few minutes. And he said he's been in the business here for a few years, and he feels like for whatever reason in Bedford County, there's kind of a culture has developed of not wanting to pay for funerals or feeling like there's a way to get,
Freebies.
sympathy, freebies, basically. Yeah. So he said as recently as last week or maybe the week before, sometime recently, he had a body that they ended up accepting into their funeral home that had been in the Vanderbilt morgue for 7 or 8 days while the family called around to different funeral homes in the area trying to find somebody to give them a free funeral. So, and he said that's kind of goes on a lot. So that maybe, and I didn't try to talk to Vanderbilt. I mean, I guess I could have, but I don't even know who to reach out to there. But that was kind of what he felt, at least as funeral home director felt, was the reason maybe that they decided to get out of the business of just housing everyone that passed away in the county, because it seems like they were housing many of them for a lot longer than they should be. So, and oddly enough, when somebody passes away and they put them in the morgue there, they don't pay Vanderbilt anything for that. So they're not, Vanderbilt is not a nonprofit.
They are a business. Okay.
They're a
And
business,
I think
yeah.
a lot of people look at our local hospitals as an extension of government.
Right.
These are corporations that make money.
Yeah, now there are such things as not-for-profit hospitals, but Vanderbilt is not
Vanderbilt
one.
is not one
Vanderbilt
of those.
is a
Vanderbilt
for-profit.
is one of the premier healthcare
Yeah.
systems, healthcare industry
Right.
leaders
Yeah.
in the United States.
Right. So long story short, as of today, and nobody had a real clear answer, didn't give a completely clear answer on if you were to pass away in your house today, where they're going to take you.
So what
this
happens
weekend.
today, Josh?
I do not know what happens, but as you heard mentioned there by our mayor, they're looking at putting a county morgue in the new surplus building, which is being built. Actually, the funeral director I spoke with said he'd even heard that we've got some coolers in the old surplus building. We may end up having to use those.
So we're going to county
temporarily.
surplus.
So I guess you become surplus if you pass away. I don't know.
This culture of not wanting to take care of this is troubling. I mean, I see it as, even if I'm flat broke and don't have a job and I have a family member pass away, I'm going to try to do everything I can to make sure that that's handled properly. And I got to think that most of the funeral homes here would work out a plan for you.
I would think they would have some kind of a financing backup plan
Yeah.
or something. Yeah. I mean,
But just to leave
yeah, I told him when I spoke to him, I'm like, that's to me, because I'm not, I've only been here in the county 3 years. I said, it just seems odd to me. I mean, in Davidson County, when, somebody passed away, you did expect you were going to pay the funeral home something. So yeah. You weren't expecting to get a freebie. So, so it's going on. Just know, if you're going to pass away inside Vanderbilt instead of outside, or, I don't know where you're going to end up right now, but eventually we will have a county morgue. It's
kind of hard to plan for, Josh.
It is kind of hard to plan for. You don't get a lot of choice in that.
Yeah.
So later in the same meeting, I didn't put this on your rundown, but we did pass the one real action item on the agenda was we did pass a budget amendment. We moved a couple things out of restricted funds. One of them was $10,000. We're going to do some upgrades on the the archives building,
Right.
because that's going to be the first building you see when you come into the square on that street once Justice Center moves up to the north side of town. So they want to make that look a little nicer. And then another $10,000, which I didn't even know was a case. The county gets a tiny bit of that hotel motel money that the city gets more of. I guess there's there'd be some Airbnbs and some bed and breakfasts and stuff that are outside the city limits.
Mm-hmm.
So they get a small amount, and they've chosen to take $10,000 of that and put it into this event coming up December 3rd, the big courthouse lighting event.
Mm-hmm.
And apparently that's going to be a big deal. There was some discussion at the meeting. They could be spending as much as $60,000 or $70,000 on that. There could be fireworks involved, and they're going to shut the square down. You're going to have to get shuttled up to the square. It's going to be a big deal.
Is that the same night of the parade? I hadn't seen the parade dates. I know we're going to cover that, and
I don't know that that's connected to the parade. This is the December 3rd event is run by the Chamber of Commerce. The county is pitching in, and they said at the meeting even, which I've not heard this from the city, but apparently the city is pitching in, which is odd since the city and the chamber and the county are not getting along so well. But I guess in the spirit of Christmas, we're all getting together, and we're going to make this a big event. So hopefully the weather's good as well.
Yeah.
So
that sounds like it's going to be. Is that a Friday night?
I did not even look. I would assume it's sometime around the weekend.
Yeah.
December 3rd is definitely the date. So
okay,
so
that's
look
to
forward
come.
to that.
We'll have plenty of time to update.
We'll have plenty of time to talk about that. Thursday night, City Planning Commission met. Long agenda. We were there very close to 2 hours, it felt like. First thing it did was deferred one of our favorite PUDs, Remington Farms, deferred again. Hasn't been talked about or discussed or voted on since it was first deferred in December. So it's still hanging out.
Basically, it's been to the council.
No, it's been to planning commission
only
once in December, and it was deferred then. And
right,
then
it's not been
it's not been re-brought up. It's tied up in a discussion over traffic with TDOT,
right,
and how much improvements they would need to do to put 2,500 people on.
It's kind of weird how
acres.
this thing was it's such a hot topic back then,
right?
And now it's just vanished.
Well, because that's what happens when you have the building fill up with unhappy constituents, and they were flowed out into the parking lot, and people turned away in that meeting. I mean, people pulled in the parking lot where you turn around and left because they could see there was no way they were getting in the building. So it was not popular when it came up in December. So I don't think it'll be any more popular when they bring it up for a vote again, but we'll see what happens. Claxton Estates, which is another one that's going to add to our traffic excitement in town. 73 homes on Brown Lane over there off Fairfield Pike, also deferred. They got a traffic study back on that one, and they didn't have enough time to review it, but the initial review, there were some concerns.
Oh, I'm sure there will be.
There were concerns. So the applicant didn't choose to defer that one. They were actually forced to defer by the Planning Commission, voted to defer that one. So Juvenile Justice Center over on the north side of town by the big jail, they approved the site plan at planning. So that one's moving forward. That's one of our guaranteed maximum price projects. Cooper Steel facility over on North Hillcrest. I believe it's going to be a training facility. It was kind of unusual because a couple places on the slides it says something about fabrication center, but then other places it said training. So I think it's training. Maybe it's fabrication.
Combination, I believe.
Maybe both. Who knows? Had a lot of conditions. There was some discussion and debate of how many things do we let pass through planning when the application isn't really ready. And in this case, this application wasn't ready to go. The traffic study hadn't been done. There were 8 things that weren't where they should be. So they chose in this case to let it go with this 8 list of conditions. And the planning and codes department felt like they had enough enforcement that they could force it to. And they also felt like Cooper still wasn't looking to slide on any of them. It just got brought up a little too early. So it went through. There was some debate on if we let one person go through with a lot of conditions.
Right.
Do we now let everybody go through with a lot of conditions? So we'll see what that leads to down the road. Also, something that I found interesting, somebody's building a 52,750 foot spec building. So I've heard of building a spec house, but a 52,000 foot warehouse, that's a pretty big building to just build on spec with nothing coming into it.
Right.
So I don't know. It's I don't know how you pronounce that. Quintech Drive maybe is where they're building it. So they said there's no business plan for it yet, but they're building it anyway. So hopefully that will be something nice coming in.
There's
down
probably
the road.
something in mind.
Yeah, maybe so.
Hadn't
Maybe
been
one of those
finalized.
things they just didn't want to say yet what it was. De-annexation on Jennings Lane got the favorable recommendation. One of the planning commission one of the planning commission members even mentioned, he said, they haven't gone through the chainsaws and taken down all the trees yet, have they?
No.
There has been no development
Trees
on it.
will remain.
Trees are remaining. It's going back to farmland in the county. Then we had 3 rezoning requests. 2 were passed favorably unanimously. The last one, which was a tiny little parcel across from the Ag Center that they wanted to run up to R4. It was kind of a weird deal. It was a larger parcel that actually had 3 different zonings on the same parcel. They split off the front on North Main and made it commercial. In the back, they were trying to get it all to R4, which then would have put apartments or townhomes directly across the street from the Ag Center. And they voted that one down. It was a fairly strong no. It was like 7-2 no. So, and then they approved some changes to zoning on the square, which this will go before the city council. It's not final yet, but basically it's going to allow any of those buildings on the square, you could put residential on the upper stories. Currently, you can only have 1 residential unit per building. So if you had a big building that could have been subdivided into like 2 or 3 apartments, you weren't allowed to do it. But you now are. The caveats with that is you have to have 2 parking spaces per residential unit. They don't have to be on your property, but you have to have a signed contract with somebody inside the central
Right.
business district, saying that you can park 2 cars there.
Speaking of the square, Josh, I
Yeah.
drove by last night.
Yeah.
Going to pick up something right off the square, and I went around the square at about 6:15, and the parking lot. I mean, the whole square, basically all around the east, the south, and the west side, were packed with cars. The glass
That's the
hollow
glass hollow
is
effect.
hopping.
So, yep.
Yeah. So that's going to show you when things get full force, we're going to have a parking issue, and that parking lot on the back side is going to be a necessity.
It is, and that's been basically all the steps of that approved. I think there's still that one property on
Right.
there that was a little bit of a holdout, but I think the plan is, they're going to have 100 and it was over 100 spots
Yeah.
there in front of the Fly. So
Well, you got the Capri Theater rolling.
Yep.
You've got the Shovel Pizza. You got Bocelli. You got this, and I'm going to expect there's going to be a couple other things pop up that are going to be open in that nighttime, early evening time.
Grindstone eventually. Grindstone.
You're going to have a parking issue.
Yeah, and even Pope's, I think they stay open till like 7 now.
Yeah.
So
they're going to capitalize on that. So they'll probably stay open later.
They may stay open later as well.
But
so,
it was hopping.
Which is good because
Yeah.
I mean, in the past, if you went up there any night of the week, even the weekend, if you went there
Nobody.
at 5:30, it was
Yeah.
deader than a
Dead.
doornail.
Yep.
So that was good. And then last thing going on, which I went to both Thursday and Friday, I went both times. Our Bedford County Arts Collective is doing the big art show at the Ag Center. Over, I think they say 200 pieces, 20 some artists. It's a really good show. We've got a lot of good artists. These are all local artists. A lot of the pieces are for sale, and they are there all day. Today's the last day. You can go today, I believe, until 9:00 tonight, and go and see that. And Thursday night, I didn't get there till late because of our planning meeting. But I was told from the time they opened at 6 until about 7:30 or 8:00, you could barely even walk in the building. It was so full.
Wow.
It was shoulder to shoulder with people. So that's great that happened. And then if you're not so much in the arts and prefer your mules and your bluegrass, you can go on over to the Cooper Steel Arena, and they've got the mule and the bluegrass going on, I believe,
Yeah.
all day today as well.
Yeah, it winds up tonight.
Yeah, and I believe you can also go to Unionville today, isn't it? Is it Malpin Fest, the old time music and
I don't
dancing
know.
and
It
stuff? That's
possibly
today as
so,
well.
yeah.
So there's a lot going on here in the county today. So, but that is kind of the wrap up of the things I did this week and the news that we thought mattered to people that live here locally. So let's hear from our sponsor one more time, and then we'll talk about what's happening next week.
All right.
With the personalized service you deserve at Dennis Young Insurance Agency.
As a local independent agency, we offer coverage from several different companies, including Erie. So whether it's auto, home, life, personal, or business, we can find the right coverage to meet your unique insurance needs. And with a rate lock advantage, your rates won't go up as long as you do not change drivers, autos, or addresses. Contact us at Dennis Young Insurance Agency, insuring Shelbyville and surrounding areas since 1988.
Again, we want to thank our sponsor, Dennis Young Insurance, for being a part of the weekend wrap up and allowing us to do this show for everybody. Special thanks to them. Josh, what's coming up in the upcoming week here?
We're about to be in October.
Yes,
It
we
is
are.
a new month. We're headed into fall here, and because it's the first week of the month, it's very light as far as meetings. All we got city and county-wide is Tuesday night at 6 o'clock is the city study session. And as of last night when I checked, the agenda wasn't up. They usually put it up sometime over the weekend. So a lot of the stuff that got passed at planning will be on that agenda. There's always, at the city level, there's always a lot going on. So I would expect a lot to be on that study agenda. And then not really a meeting, but just a note. This past week that just happened, they were working on a paving project on North Main Street and North Britain and over there in front of the post office. Right. And you might have noticed it rained a little bit. So they weren't able to get it done.
Not much.
Not able to.
Yeah.
Well, they did. They got some done. Like North Main part is paved, but North Britain, I don't believe I'd seen any pavement. They just got the grinding in. So either way, that means those same roads will be under construction this coming
A little
week.
bit longer.
So a little bit longer. So just keep an eye out if you drive through that area. There was a section of time this week where you couldn't even drive up North Main at all there.
Yeah.
In front of the post office, you had to route around and stuff. So just be able to look out for that. And other than that, I would expect something will come out of left field this week, but we don't know what it is, so we'll just wait and see.
Something I want to back up and talk about that was right in the middle of the situation with the Vanderbilt
Sure.
and the body issue. Was
Yeah.
there any resolution in that meeting to talk about what they were going to do temporarily starting today, or it was just like y'all work it out, or is
They did
anybody going to
not
know?
publicly announce it. No. Now, the funeral home director I spoke with said that they had talked with him and they may need to use some of his coolers for a
Right.
time. Obviously, we have multiple funeral homes in
Right,
town.
so that's going to be probably the plan.
That could be part of the plan. Also, if they're able to get the cause of death determined on the scene, like if it's obviously just a heart attack or
Right.
something, they can go ahead and release the body to the funeral home from the home
Right.
without having to take it somewhere else. They just have
Okay.
to have somebody has to act, the medical examiner, I believe they said somebody could act as like I don't know if they call it like an associate or
Right.
something medical examiner, as long as it's obvious. So as
Right.
long as there's no question that there was some kind of foul play or something, in that case, you could pick whatever funeral
Yeah.
home you're going to use. They could send somebody, pick up the body, and take them straight to the funeral home.
Yeah,
without-
but that
without the
segment
interview.
there, and it sounds like what happened in that meeting was kind of bad. So I just
Yeah,
wondered.
and it is still a little bit. And longer term, I think the plan is to. It sounded like something at the surplus building, so that will be the long term
Okay.
plan. So,
All right.
but other than that, I believe we'll be back here same time, same station, same everything
Yeah.
next week,
Next
and we'll be
week.
talking about the news that matters here in Shelbyville and Bedford County. So.
Have a good weekend.